Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael, in for Fran Stoddard. Our program today has its roots in an elementary school assignment dating back to 2016. That assignment involved a class of fifth graders at the Cumberland Head School in Plattsburgh. They were asked to write a poem about themselves, beginning every few sentences with "I am." That assignment has turned one of the students into a distinguished author whose emotional poem about life with autism has touched people around the world. Benjamin Giroux is the author of I Am Odd, I Am New. The poem, now turned into a book with illustrations, is about to hit bookstores, and Benjamin will be featured at a book signing at the Champlain Center Mall that's now scheduled for November 13th. Joining us today via Zoom is now 16-year-old Benjamin Giroux and his father, Sonny. Good afternoon to each of you, and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon, Will. Thank you for having us.
So the cover of the book says Benjamin. Do you prefer Benjamin, or may I call you Ben? What do you prefer?
You can just call me Ben.
Well, thanks, Ben, and again, appreciate you being with us. So that we're all off and we understand, we'd like to hear your story poem. So would you please read it to us?
I am odd. I am new. I wonder if you are too. I hear voices in the air. I see you don't, and that's not fair. I want to not feel blue. I am odd. I am new. I pretend that you are too. Feel like a boy in outer space. I touch the stars and feel out of place. I worry what others might think. I cry when people laugh. It makes me shrink. I am odd. I am new. I understand now that so are you. I say I feel like a castaway. I dream of a day that's okay. I try to fit in. I hope someday I do. I am odd. I am new.
Benjamin, that's touched people around the world. I guess I want to wonder, could you tell us a little bit more about why the poem was written?
Well, as you said earlier, it was a school assignment for my fifth grade library class, which is weird. I've never heard of a library class before, but most of the class did it. And when I wrote it, at first, I didn't really think much of it. But the more and more I thought about it, the less and less I wanted to actually read it out to the class when we were supposed to. So that day that we were supposed to, I got like a big anxiety attack. So I had to stay home from school. And my parents consoled me over whether or not it's a good poem and how it really shows how you feel, and it's good for other people to know this type of stuff. And I think my dad can explain it a lot better than me.
Well, let me turn over your dad, and we'll come back to you in just a moment. But Sonny, tell us a little bit about Ben's life leading up to writing the story poem.
Well, Benjamin, at that point, was at his third public school. We started out kindergarten in Pennsylvania, and he was an only child at the time, and he was a well-behaved child at home. And when he went off to school, the very first day of kindergarten, he was sent to the principal's office. And the teacher told us that he wasn't following directions as he was told to. And so she thought he was being defiant. And that started off his journey that for the kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, he was constantly picked on and bullied. He just couldn't pay attention. He couldn't focus on tasks. He had trouble during free time, things like lunchtime, recess, when everything was being really chaotic. And my wife and I couldn't wrap our heads around why this was happening, because we didn't have these problems at home, and our friends and family couldn't wrap their heads around why Ben wasn't adjusting to school life. So by second grade, we assumed that it was the anxiety of our move. My wife was as a resident at the hospital there, and we knew that at the end of her residency, we would be moving. So we just took it that he was projecting his anxieties at school, and that's why that was. So we then moved to Plattsburgh back in 2013 when he was in third grade. And we weren't sure where we were going to live because we weren't from the area. We were renting. So we put him in the private school here, thinking that the smaller school classes would make it easier for him to get that one-on-one teacher attention that we thought he might need. And the very first day of the summer that right be going leading into third grade, we had enrolled Ben in a hockey camp here, and a local hockey coach who happens to be a special education teacher at the Beekman Town School District. On the very first day of meeting Ben and spending an afternoon with Ben, pulled me aside and had asked me if Ben had been diagnosed with Asperger's. And my first reaction was, "I'm sorry, what did you call my son?" Because we didn't know what Asperger's was, and she's like, "It's a form of autism." And we were completely baffled. We were clueless as to what that even was. So she told us to get in touch with his pediatrician and see what the pediatrician thought. So the pediatrician immediately recognized the signs that Ben was on the spectrum, and we needed to start the journey to get him diagnosed, which is a very lengthy journey that there are many hoops to jump through. So Ben started third grade at the new private school, and at the same time, we were driving down every 6 weeks to Albany to see the specialists there. And that took about 4, maybe 5 visits for him to finally be diagnosed at the time with Asperger's, which is now all under the ASD, autism spectrum disorder umbrella. And so that took us to pretty much the end of third grade by the time he was finally diagnosed. And the private school at the time didn't have the resources needed to provide him with the therapies and attention that he needed at school. So, of course, then we thought back of that hockey coach, Mrs. Knowles, who was a Beekman Town employee, and that made our decision to purchase a house in the Beekman Town School District. So then Ben started 4th grade at Beekman Town, and with the help of his teachers and his physical therapy, occupational therapy, he was put in a situation where he was able to grow as a student and as a child. He was able to express himself. When he was overwhelmed with things, he was able to go down and get the therapy that he needed. Simply jumping on a trampoline for 3 minutes to get that nervous energy out during school, or having a counselor to go down to and just talk about his feelings and how he would feel at school. So
Sonny, may I jump in for just 1 sec?
Absolutely.
You talked about this being a journey. This has been a journey for you and your wife, the rest of the family, and Ben. You're all on this same journey. Is that what's going on?
We're all on the same path of this journey. Obviously, our roles are all different. Ben, is doing his own journey with our support and our love. But what he's learning through his therapies is to better understand himself. And at the same time, my wife and I are learning more about autism and how to better assist our son in being the best child he can be. And then obviously his younger siblings now are learning, how to play and interact with their big brother without completely driving him totally insane.
Not really working though.
Ben, we went over some questions before we got started. This is not one of the questions, so I understand that you can just say, no, I'm not going to answer that. What does autism mean to you? What does that word mean, autism?
I feel like autism isn't really a thing. It's a mindset of a group of people who just think differently than normal people. And being autistic doesn't mean that you're worse or lesser than a normal person, but you're just different and special and unique.
Well, you're certainly special and unique. We know it because of this book. Again, it's gone around the world. And now, how does it feel knowing that your words are going to be available in bookstores, in libraries, and in people's homes? And that's just going to happen in a few days. How does that feel?
I really don't know. It's just a lot to think about. Like, something that I wrote for a school project has grown so much in these past few years, and I just can't believe that it's actually getting interest. I don't know. It's a lot.
Do you have other books in mind, Ben?
Yeah, actually, I wrote 2 books about, like, looking at yourself with respect, and another one about being different is a good thing. And it's about my pet snake, Monty, in these social situations of him being insecure about being a snake, and how him being a snake is a good thing because snakes are awesome in their own way.
Ben, it is awesome. What's not awesome is that we're about out of time. Sonny, in just the time we have remaining, do you have any advice, any thoughts that you want to share for other families that, as you've said, are on this journey?
The best advice I can give is obviously speak to your pediatrician, but also seek out local help. Where up in the North Country, the Autism Alliance of Northeast New York have been an amazing resource. They have wonderful people who volunteer in their organization, and that can point you towards the specialists that you need, after school tutors, just anything of that source. So seek out local autism groups and other parents who can help you on your journey.
And we can also direct folks to the National Autism Association. Our director, Adam Wright, has put that website, nationalautismassociation.org. That's on your screen. I need to stop us there, Ben and Sonny, as we're about out of time. Again, thank you very much for being with us, and congratulations, Ben, to you on the successful book, and best of luck. We'll see you over at the book signing then.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And that is our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.